Here we are for the first time in a long time, the Retro Roundtable. What's up, everybody?
Yeah, what would you guys call me for?
Yeah, what?
Now, what's going on today? What's going on? I told you I have a hair transplant appointment at 1 o'clock on my bottom.
I was told they'd be Americans, so I didn't take any chances.
So I just wanted to give a very quick intro. I'm really happy we all got to do this, and I want to give a call back to our very, very first Retro Roundtable, where I talked about how my wiki would be launching within that month. Nick and Steve were talking about their soon release of the Dreamcast cable. Renee and I talked about the 3D adapter for the Master System, and Zach talked about his Neo Geo project, MK2000, PlayChoice 10, Afterburner, and many of the other things that he abandoned because he got bored. So we're all winners, all of us.
So none of that shit happened, right?
None of them.
So, yeah, this is a group roast. We're just gonna roast each other for sucking at life.
Essentially.
Okay, I'm down.
When in doubt, blame Steve.
If you told me that's what it was, I would have answered the phone earlier.
So I think the last time we did this was almost exactly a year ago.
Oh, yeah?
Is that right?
I think so.
Yeah, because I've been feeling like I haven't wasted any time for the past year.
It's messed up that I'm the only one that wore the shirt.
I wore it yesterday, and so I didn't want to risk the same people seeing it, so I didn't wear it a second day.
I use mine as a dust mop. It's in the wash.
That's the fun thing about wearing a mask. If you end up having to wear the same shirt, 2 days in a row, or like I had to run out to the store today before I showered, and I was like, you know what? People got masks on. They can't smell me.
So what are we talking about today, Bob? What's on the agenda that we spent
Yeah.
3 hours?
Nick, I tried really
crafting,
hard to
make
get topics to talk about, but you kept telling me to shut up and it doesn't matter and don't bother. So I guess we should all probably just say anything fun that we've been up to. I absolutely miss hanging out with you guys. I think our schedules made it near impossible to keep up doing these. But I do love every one of you bitches. So what the hell have you been up to?
Nick, you go first. Please, God, Jesus, Nick, just go first.
I've been not putting all my effort into making sure Retro Roundtables run smoothly. So that's freed up a lot of time. Nothing is... I was going to actually ask you guys, kind of to flip the question, has the whole pandemic situation changed your lives at all? Because for me, it's pretty much the same. Just go to work still remotely, work with Steve remotely. I don't know how it's impacted you guys at all.
For me, it's the same thing because obviously I do everything from home. But the one big difference was, I'd roll out of bed every morning, start working, keep working until I passed out or needed to pass out, had a couple beers, whatever. And then at the end of every week, usually at least once a week, I would go hang out with friends, make fun of each other, laugh at each other, and go home. And it felt like a reset. So without that, it was kind of weird at first because it was like all I did was just work for 3 months straight without a break. And I'm like, I don't think that's real healthy. I should probably try to change something up about that. Working STE hours, but fucking 24/7.
Did you realize that you need to get out of Manhattan as quickly as possible yet?
No, but I got to admit, when this whole thing first went down, I was like, all right, if the supermarkets run out of food, or if the power goes out, or if the water goes out, it's going straight into Resident Evil. And I'm just like, all right, well, let me prepare for that in as much of a prepper way without actually being crazy about things. So I got a bunch of gallons of water just in case, and none of that happened. You could still get delivery from your favorite food places. So I was just like, all right, well, I guess we're fine.
Seemed like it impacted Zach the most. I haven't heard from Renee in a while, but Zach's... I remember you talking on Twitter about how this has basically made your business a hell at times.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
No,
You could turn on the mic. That would
Yeah.
be cool.
Oh, I had it muted. I didn't want to, interrupt all this really glorious conversation that was going on. Hey, Bob, fix the camera, please. Jesus
I know,
Christ,
I'm
Bob.
trying. I don't know what happened. I have it set correctly. It wouldn't be a retro roundtable if one of our windows didn't resize, though.
I'm so sorry, guys, that Bob is grossly incompetent, and he did not prepare for this, obviously. After being invited to this beautiful event, he did not even, we asked him, I said, Bob, yesterday, Bob, let's just go through the paces here. Let's make sure that all of our equipment is configured properly. No, we don't need to do that. I'm on top of this shit.
No, he's like, yeah, it'll be fine.
So, I'm from the state of Kentucky, and I don't know if you guys have been following, but our governor, Andy Beshear, had some pretty stringent demands on small business and just on the populace of my state. A lot of things have changed in terms of how we can do business. Even though I'm a work from home type, my business is incorporated and it's real. Therefore, I have to follow and abide by various bylaws and various mandates that he's made, especially for him as a result of the coronavirus. So one of the things that's been deeply impacted is just shipping and processing packages, getting them there to the post office, getting them from the post office and to me safely, because that's probably been the biggest crux. It's just the shipping system. Now, that's just not limited to the state of Kentucky. I don't know if you guys have noticed this, but in other places, especially where coronavirus has been quite prevalent, shipping is, at least at one point, not so much now, but shipping at one point was almost at a standstill or was very slow. Things were getting lost. Things were not certainly coming on time. That's what she said. And so it really put me back by at least 5 weeks. I was 5 weeks behind just because I couldn't get enough packages in and I couldn't get enough packages out. And so it really sort of displaced my whole order of operations, I guess you could say. So it was really tough. It was really tough for me to sort of overcome those challenges as a man living in the state of Kentucky. But I have to say, though, that things are much better now. We're getting back into shape physically and emotionally. And then, we're working through it. But coronavirus it wasn't devastating. From a business point of view or from a business standpoint, it wasn't devastating. It was just very hard from about March till June-ish. But it's better now. And we're doing them.
So basically, these are tough times, and we'll get through this together. is that basically what it is?
Exactly.
How about you, Renee? How's the life way up in the middle of nowhere been impacted?
Well, in my region, we've had, in my town, we've had one coronavirus case, but we're still affected by all the measures. So, I mean, everyone goes out in public and wears a mask, obviously, and the schools were shut down. I worked from home for about 2 months, and then they decided, well, the whole school's empty, so you might as well just go back to the office. But they said that I have to wear a mask when I go into the school, and they said I have to wash my hands when I walk in and out, even though I'm alone in the building, so it's kind of weird. But other than that, things haven't really changed up here. That's from a work point of view. From the DB Electronics point of view, probably most people noticed that I completely quit Twitter about almost a year ago. So I've been feeling very good. Twitter is a huge drain.
Sure is.
Yeah.
I understand why Steve's not on there anymore. Never been. Sorry. From a personal point of view, you could probably see in the background there's cement exposed in my back room there. I had to tear out most of the drywall in my basement due to a flood. But I handled it like a man. I fixed it myself. I didn't, beg for mercy or whatever online on Twitter. So I thought that was very metal on my part.
Well, thank Jesus you were able to do that.
Yeah, thank Jesus indeed. Yeah. So I fixed up my entire washroom, brand new everything. The part that you're seeing here is actually my workshop. So I haven't been doing any work for the last few months because the workshop is completely torn apart right now. I've still got to fix that part. Obviously, the washroom was more important. Well, I mean, I'm saying that the flood destroyed it, but Bob also used that washroom at one point. So,
you can't isolate those variables.
I mean,
that was part of the destruction as well. So
I'm not going to say I wasn't part of the problem, but I'm not going to say that I was. So
Renee, I wanted to ask you real quick.
No,
Sorry,
no.
Bob. Just go ahead and keep resizing all these windows. You're doing a great job. Just keep screwing it up. Listen, Renee, I wanted to know, since you've sort of had a lot of downtime, have you been beating it with your cousin recently on the couch with a bag of potato chips?
Oh my God, no. I the whole time I was fixing up the basement, I didn't play any video games. I finished the washroom maybe 2 weeks ago, so I've started, playing Tetris again, but I was completely off of any type of video game from maybe January until 2 weeks ago. So it's a very, very difficult time emotionally.
I'm sorry.
Did they cancel the Tetris Championships this year yet? Is that?
Well, PRGE's in the fall, right? So
Yeah.
they'll probably announce it soon.
It's in Portland, right?
Yeah.
I think so, Renee. Or Steve, I think so. I'll have to check the map, but yes.
Yes. I'm just going to assume that I'm going to go off that assumption that it's closed.
Yeah.
So when I was over
Oh,
there and
that's a
I
bummer.
did the tour of your shop, you had when you went around the corner, you had that spot with your workbench, and then you had all those consoles up on the wall over there and everything. None of those got damaged, right? Because I imagine that's where a lot, if there was any flooding, it would probably come in right around that area.
No, I didn't lose any material possessions at all, because anyone with, an IQ of 2 up here doesn't store anything on the floor level in the basement.
Fair. Well, glad to hear that.
Because the whole city's built in a swamp, and flooding is really prevalent. So
Back when Sandy happened a couple of years ago, a friend of mine had all of his retro setup that he had just rebuilt, and he also has a D32, and the water came up it came up so high that if the shelf was just 6 inches lower, his D32 would have been in water. So it was really freaky. So.
I just kind of picture Bob in that scenario standing waist deep in the water, holding the D32 above his head.
I had to pick it up
letting
myself.
everything else.
It's like mothers who save their children, then they lift cars off of children's bodies. It's like Bob gets this sudden surge of adrenaline and stress hormone and unlike his mastitis. But he picks it up and he holds the D32 above his head, and he's like, "You're not going to take me, you sons of bees." I can't say bitches here because well maybe I can. But and he's like, "You're not going to take my liberty."
Can I say bitches on TV? On this network you can.
You know what's funny? I don't know if I ever told this on the Roundtable before, but I put all my monitors on rolling carts, and I had one of those knockoff wire carts. And John from Tasty Chicken ordered me a professional grade one that you would actually use in a restaurant. And I'd set it all up, and I was like, all right, well, let me text Beast, see if you could come over and help me with this, because I want to make sure I get it right. And I'm trying to line up all the shelves, and I'm like, why can't I get this lined up? And I go over to where the D32 was actually on, and I look at the bottom, and the good ones have the wheels that you hammer in, and then the crappy ones, you have the really thin screws, and it had backed itself out, and one of the wheels in front was hanging on by a thread. So if I had moved that monitor 2 or 3 more times, the wheel would have fallen off, and it would have gone crashing to the floor. So I went, screw this. Just picked it up and put it on the new one. So yeah, I had my mom's strength help me out and save that one.
Bob, I'm proud of you.
So Bob, someone in the chat's asking, what's a D32?
It's a 32-inch widescreen BVM. It's supposedly one of the best CRTs ever made, but they only made a few of them, which is why they're so coveted. So it's just anything, they only made a handful of.
They also weigh a ton.
Yeah,
I guess is the point of the.
Yes,
I might be
they're very
fat,
heavy.
but I'm not a pussy. So there you go.
But it's also if nobody's ever
debatable.
lifted a CRT, it's not just the weight, it's the distribution of the weight is very strange.
Yeah.
It's all on the front.
It's all in the glass.
Yeah.
It's all in the glass.
So it's just weird to lift, pick up, and move around.
Well, anyone our age who went to college, I'm sure, carried a CRT from dorm room to dorm room.
Your mom goes to
Every year.
college.
I think they should add that as an event in the World's Strongest Man competitions. The
The CRT
D32
hurl.
lift. Yeah.
CRT
CRT hurl, yes.
I was helping my friend train like a run. We did 10K, and then like his house was right by the course, and I went. We were stretching at his house afterward, and then he was doing exercises with a Gen 1 PS3. He's like doing these squats. I'm like, what the hell are you doing? He's like, I don't know, this thing weighs a ton. And he's like, he literally has the PS3 there just for like weight exercises and stretching.
Yeah, I'll be honest. When I go shopping and I have armfuls of stuff, when I get in the elevator and I'm just going to stand there, because I never want to put stuff on the ground, because, we're all walking on this, the piss-filled streets of Manhattan, and I'm just sitting there, I'm like, screw it, and I start doing curls with the bags. I'm sure the people that work at my building are always looking at me like, look at this moron again. Here he goes, just curling his groceries.
How much does 16 gallons of ice cream weigh?
Less than 16 beers. So there you go.
That's a good one.
So what's the last time you beat it 2020, Bob? And what was the game?
That's a good question. I've been so swamped, I've barely been able to play any games. I did go through Link's Awakening. I'm not sure if that was late 2020.
The Switch one?
I don't know if that was late 2019 or early 2020. That was pretty cool. I really enjoyed that. The frame rate thing didn't bother me too much, but it was absolutely noticeable. It was one of those things that even if I didn't watch the DF Retro review, I totally would have seen it. So I'm trying to think. I think that's really been it, to be honest with you. I think I've just played whenever I'm testing a new thing that I have to review, that's the only time I actually get to play games. So I've played a lot of Outrun 2020. Is that the one for PS2? Oh, it's right here. What is that?
Outrun. Isn't that?
Outrun 2006 Coast to Coast. That was the one. I've been using this to test a lot of games because it's got really nice 480p and 480i on it, and I'd forgotten how much I really loved that game. It actually is a really fun racing game.
Oh, cool.
How about you, Steve? What? How have you used coronavirus to excuse no Dreamcast cables?
That's easy. Like, do we have enough time? Yeah. So for me, I guess stuff didn't really necessarily change like materially, like you guys are saying, but kind of more psychologically. Where when everything first started, kind of like locking down, I was just still coming here doing shit. Like learning how to machine aluminum because I'd never done it before, and I got all these mechanical assemblies done, and then there was this thing which I don't want to get into details with, but had a problem with a supplier that's in the United States, and I kind of realized that the source of the problem was the same thing that was. Because now we're like a month into, like, this was like April, where I started to realize the problems I'm having with the supplier and this thing now that the lockdown stuff started kind of getting dumb, in my opinion. I noticed it was the same, like, source of it. And so it kind of, like, depressed the hell out of me. And so I just played Final Fantasy VII Remake, like, plowed through it, because I really wanted to play it for a long time, and so I'm like, I'm just going to play video games. And so I played a lot of that, and finally got that thing resolved, but like it kind of like took a toll on me because it was such a long process, and I just don't understand how.
Yeah, to give some like slight background to that, that was like a supplier we were using for a part in the Dreamcast cables that we needed to get, and yeah, like Steve said, we don't have to go into the details on it, but it was just like a nightmare of trying to get them to create the part correctly and do like the proper testing on it. It was just a big mess. So that was one of the many things that has been a speed bump in that project. I know somebody.
So you're sure that wasn't Bob? You weren't working with Bob on that?
Yeah, so it was this supplier in New York City.
Not to mention our factory was shut down for a good while on the early end of things, and that just set everything back. And
well, that's everything else back, which was
well, I mean that'll teach you to get your cables made in Wuhan.
Yeah, we bleach wipe them down all individually now. So no, it's the other big, like, we had a shipping issues too. I know Zach was talking about it. Man, we work with a distributor in Switzerland called Consoles for You and like 18 other names that he goes by. But shipping to Switzerland just in general, like through UPS or FedEx, is super expensive. So we tried going through the U.S. Postal Service and it took like 3 months, no joke, to get him a small shipment of cables. It was just an absolute disaster. We couldn't figure out where the product was. It just, like, the USPS website said it was still in the US, but really it was in the Netherlands, and I was only able to find that out because Ryan from Castlemania Games has a postal service hookup that's able to, like, look at the real tracking info. The tracking info they show you is BS. Like, there's actually a real system.
Of course Ryan has a postal service hookup. Of course he does.
It's like Simpsons. It's not 911. Here's the real number.
So that was lost in the Netherlands. The Netherlands, is that Shao Kahn's territory?
That's right.
Yes.
I thought so.
Yeah.
I thought so.
Yeah, that SCART switch I reviewed, they asked for it back to check out, and in a good way. They wanted to double check everything I found and learn from it, improve it, and all that. And then I kept saying, like, can you guys send me a shipping label? Because I don't know how you got it here so cheap. They said it was only $20 to ship it to me. And I wasted like 2 hours. I went through every single shipping service. The cheapest was $60. And the most expensive was $150 for slow shipping, not even fast shipping.
Wow.
I was like, you figure something out. I can't pay you more than the Switch was worth to send this back to you.
Yeah, for sure. Well, these are all great stories. I'm glad we're really engaging with our audience.
How about you? What do you,
Sorry.
Mr. Voultar? What's the last game that?
The last game that I played, it's hard for, I don't know if it was 2019 or whenever Link's Awakening came out. I certainly ran through the remake of Link's Awakening. Fantastic game. I can look beyond the subtle frame rate issues in a few spots of the game where it was really impacted the game. No big deal. Great remake. I'm trying to think what else I've played. That's really it. What Steve and I, we embarked on an endeavor about a year and a half ago. No, it was actually about this time last year. It was actually about in April. We started. Go ahead, Steve. Just do the gosh damn math in your head.
No, it's not April right now.
I know. I'm saying about a year and a month or two ago. We started the server run in April or May. Okay. Jesus fucking Christ. Okay, so we did this. We rented some server space, and here's the thing I want to talk about just real quick. A lot of people, like, if they want to start a game server, they want to have a hosted dedicated server for whatever game they want to play. They often go to places like gameservers.com or other sort of vendors who offer services specifically for that, and they'll pay a fortune. When I say if they pay a fortune, they'll pay like $3 a player slot or $2 a player slot. Well, if you have a 32 or 64 player server and you have to pay per the metric is per payment per server slot. Good Lord, you're going to pay $64, $130, $140 a month.
That much?
Just to rent a game server.
I didn't know it was that much. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. I was just kind of shocked.
No. Yeah, it can be really expensive. So I'm like, okay, what we're going to do is we're just going to go find some bare metal on the internet. We're just going to go grab a box, and we did. We got a Linux box. It's pretty decently spec'd, unlimited bandwidth, pretty good. It's like $9 a month. And they give you a choice of a couple of different Linux distros. It had Debian on it, and the version of Debian that we wanted to run for our games wasn't supported by the host. So it took me like an act of Congress and like 2 days of hacking this thing to get to compile and load up this version of Debian that works really good. So at any rate, what Steve and I have been working on is a game server for a variety of games that we love to play that just aren't really available from a multiplayer standpoint anymore. Now, what we've been focusing on is, I hope you guys like this title. I do. Ooh. Battlefield 2142. Now, Battlefield 2142 is one of the greatest games of the early 21st century. And we have a dedicated server running. There are some things that are still in testing, but it's about 98% there. And soon we hope to invite all of our friends, all of you guys watching, to come play Battlefield 2142 with us and help us take down the Titans. So I've not been playing a lot of games per se, as much as I'd love to be. My business has kept me absolutely consumed. But from a sort of gaming standpoint perspective, that's something I've been working on in terms of gaming relations.
That's awesome.
Yep. Thanks a lot, Steve, for not paying the server bills, and he sent me a check for like $20, or like he sent me like $40 in the mail 11 months ago, and here we are.
I sent
An
you
envelope of singles.
a virus-infused cash. I hope you enjoyed it.
So yeah, but I don't know if any of you guys in chat or members of the Roundtable really played any of those old games. But Battlefield 2, Battlefield 2142, 1942, Return to Castle Wolfenstein. I loved all of these games.
The server is actually running right now. It's running the First Strike mod, which is the Star Wars mod for 2142.
Which is amazing. You want to find?
It's good. It's really good. There's like. The reason why we kind of really didn't mention anything yet is that the piece of software that kind of helps you set everything up on modern systems is very buggy, and I've been working with the guy to improve it, and he's very off and on working on it and like throwing it aside, and so right now we're in a throw it aside period, but I'm hoping eventually he'll release the software. I've even written some code for him. I'm like, here, I don't even write C# code. This does this. Just throw it in there. And the idea is a lot of these people who like make these like systems, because the whole thing with 2142 is used to run on a GameSpy server, like GameSpy master server, and then in 2014, 2015, all those got like shut down. So all games that relied on GameSpy just got completely shut down. And so then there's some people who made an open source alternative that emulates GameSpy, and so the system is kind of running on that. It's called OpenSpy, and the idea is to support all games. Like you can even run games for PS2, like Tony Hawk Pro Skater, like I think on PS2, or one of them has like an online capability, and you could run it through the OpenSpy. So it's an interesting kind of system. But what we're trying to do is make the Battlefield 2142 part be like easy to set up, because it's very quirky, very strange on modern systems, where these people who make these like OpenSpy and these really technical little things don't really know how to make like very well-written instructions or like processes. Like it's like, oh, you just like open a file or open a folder and drag stuff over, and like, no, you got to understand, like, people aren't like, we're not all like super users that just want to play this game. So like I'm trying to help with that aspect to make things simpler, easier for people to get into.
And I hope in the next maybe in the next month or so we'll have most of that ironed out to really, it's really a matter, all the technology is working. It's just a matter of putting the polish on it so that there's a nice front end, this is streamlined, and that your 2142 experience, both from a playing standpoint and from a setup standpoint, are fairly turnkey, and there's not much for you to do as an end user.
Turnkey.
You're gonna be able to support stuff from original Half-Life?
He has, he has. We have.
You can do 1.2. Well, there's 1.2, right?
Well, you're running Sven Co-op server on there.
I'm sorry. You're talking about actual Steam, the Steam distro. Yes. I have a Sven. We have a Sven Co-op server running. We even have a Doom server running using the ZDaemon client.
Little Z-Doom.
Yeah, a little Z-Doom. So we've got Doom 1, Doom 2, Doom. We got all the Dooms, all the good wads. I think that's all we have. I think we've got Sven Co-op, Doom, and we've got 2142 running. And we did a lot of load tests, because I was worried, we're talking about Doom and we're talking about the Gold Source engine, which is Half-Life 1. And we're talking about 2142, and I'm like, oh, gee, do you think if we run all these games at the same time, it's going to saturate our CPU, and is our memory going to go out? We ran all of those, and we put a good load on it. no problem.
Because you were like, this is $9 a month. Is it going to really hold out? And
Yeah.
it
I was really
seems like
worried
it
about
did.
doing them all, but
Yeah.
listen, it was no problem. So if there maybe something to consider if there are other people in the community, like our people who like us, who like our bodies. If there are games, if there's consensus that people enjoy that aren't supported anymore, I would definitely consider maybe loading that up and having a fun weekend. Like every weekend we have the Roundtable or the Voultar. I like to use my name because I'm better than you. Some like
You got
some
more
sort-
subscribers, so we can just.
well,
post
I
it.
mean, some sort of thing where we could all get together and with the people who we like to talk to on the internet, we can play some really fun games, emotionally.
So I have what it might be a very stupid question, but any of these older games that you're playing on PC, can you up the frame rate of them with modern graphics cards and get up to 120 frames per second? Because I kind of did a deep dive videos. Digital Foundry just posted one the other day, and I always get motion sick when playing first-person shooters, even when just watching footage on YouTube. But watching the 120 frame per second footage, I didn't get that. I was trying to figure out, hey, I wonder if I could experience some of these old games that look like so much fun that I'd never been able to really play before too much.
Bob, have you tried watching the game sober?
Define sober.
Because it might
Also-
not be motion sickness, is all I'm saying.
Well,
so those games, Bob, are really whatever refresh your monitor supports is probably the refresh that those games will lock onto, like Half-Life 1, Counter-Strike, Tribes, Battlefield 2142, Battlefield 2, Battlefield Bad Company 2. All of these old games that we're talking about, they'll refresh. Their vertical will sync to your display properties. So my display set to 120 hertz. All those games responded 120 hertz unless I turn VSync off. But you don't want to do that. Go ahead, Bob. Go ahead.
Zach, it probably also depends on the engine. I mean, I'm pretty sure I recall reading that the original Doom engine is locked to 35 frames a second, right? So you can't get any more out of that.
For sure, but nobody uses the original Doom client anymore, though. I mean, yes.
Oh, but
yes.
even ZDoom will support more than 35 frames, or?
Oh yes, because I think they ported ZDoom over to the new GL lib. They've got a new GL lib AP. They're using the API change to OpenGL. So the ZDoom client, if I'm remembering this correctly, uses OpenGL as its renderer, and so the frame rate and all that stuff, it all went up to support. Now ZDoom now supports 1920 by 1080. So I'm assuming that the vertical refresh has gotten up with the times too.
That's awesome.
I could be wrong, Renee. I could be wrong. I don't think I am.
Yeah, the only thing I'm not 100% sure about is the, like for example, 2142 uses DirectX 9. I don't know if it has a cap internally on.
I have Fraps running, and Fraps reports 120 frames.
So is Fraps, where does it look in?
I think it looks in the application. I don't think it look. I think Fraps is designed to point to the application that's running and not just the screen.
Okay.
Could be wrong too. Again, and I'm a very wrong man. Me and Bob have a lot in common in that regard. But I don't know.
My laptop's got a 2070 graphics card in it. That's how I actually played Ori and the Will of the Wisps in 4K on my TV, and it was. It blew me away how good it was. So, but the screen built into the laptop is 120 hertz. So I feel like I should really give this a try and kind of see if I could play one of those games with you guys. I'm still going to suck. You're still going to destroy me, but maybe I could at least get through more than an hour without getting dizzy.
2142 is pretty complex, so that's a huge learning curve. But maybe Sven Co-op or Doom is something you could totally do.
ZDoom is super fun, man.
Yeah, that's you can pick that up.
I got to tell a 5-second story. I'm sorry, this is related to Bad Company too. So this was about maybe 2 years ago. Me and Steve. Was this about 2 years ago, Steve, when we were in that Bad Company 2 server?
It was just a year ago.
Oh, was it that recent?
Yeah,
Okay, so me and Steve, we were in this obscure Bad Company. It's a Battlefield game, Battlefield Bad Company 2.
And we were dominating like usual.
Me and Steve are always like 1 and 2 in the leaderboards. We're always like dominating at that game because we were gods back then, and we still are. But the point is we were playing Bad Company 2, and this guy looks at my username and he's like in chat, "Oh my God, oh are you Lord Voultar? Are you Lord Voultar?" And I said, "Yes," and he was like. And he was amazed. Like, guys, do you not effing know who this is?
Yeah.
I'm like, what the hell are you doing? This is Bad Company too.
I think that guy got kicked for like not helping his team. He was just too busy typing like
I
stuff
think
to you in the
And
chat.
I
think
know
he went
exactly what
AFK.
that guy said too. He said, "Oh my God, do you know who this is? That's the guy who touched his nipples in the RetroRGB retro right video."
Well, the funny thing is, I started advertising RetroRGB as being like a drug addict, as being a heroin user, as like I even referred to him as Adam Korlick once, which is a grave
Oh, I
offense. I
almost
mean,
snarfed
we had
my
a lot
beer.
of fun. So, at any rate, I just want to tell that story about Bad Company too. I hope Anyways, it's a lot of fun. A lot of fun. Bad Company 2, guys. We'll have a server. All of you guys can join us and play with us.
I don't think we explored that server yet.
Well,
Do they even have? I will talk about it later.
We'll talk about it later. We've got fun stuff to talk about. Like, what have you guys been working on?
Well, there is something that I thought it'd be fun to talk about. I think all of you probably know him. I just recently met him, but Robert, aka Rama. I've worked with him a lot when I did that GBS control video. Awesome guy, so patient with me because, as you all know, I can be incredibly annoying when I'm asking questions about stuff that I'm working on. But that GBS control project was so much fun to work on. I still got a couple more videos I'll be doing on it. But he also has the X Station now, which I don't have mine yet. You just posted the video on yours, right, Zach?
Yeah, wonderful. It's guys, the X Station it's going to be good. I'm really excited for you guys to really see some of the features and some of the things that are being rolled out with the X Station because, oh boy.
So you want to give like a short version of what it is for anybody that's watching that might not be like up to date?
So the X Station
And who makes
is
the X Station?
the X Station is made by Robert. What's his last name,
Newman,
Bob?
I believe.
Newman. Newman, okay. Robert Newman, otherwise known as Rama on various internet forums and boards. Like if you frequent the Shmups forum, Rama is the one who's responsible for taking over the custom firmware project for the GBS. Now, the GBS was a very low cost and very laggy and interlace-ridden upscaling board that was primarily made for arcade machines. If you needed to get an arcade board, for example, to connect just to a TV and it didn't have an RGB interface, the GBS was what you would use. It was terrible. Rama took the custom firmware that someone else designed, and guys, he's taken the GBS, he's tweaked the firmware, and now it's like, if you think the FrameMeister is good, this thing gives it a run for its money. And as a matter of fact, I think the performance is even better than a FrameMeister. And it costs $20 with an additional $7 in parts to make this thing work. Has component VGA. It'll do RG. It'll do SCART if you really want it to. The point is, he's very well renowned in the retro gaming scene for doing all these awesome hacks and bringing a lot of contribution. So he's been working on something known as the X Station. Now the X Station is a pseudo optical drive emulator, and I say that because it's really not emulating like on the gate level an optical drive or even like the RF frequencies of a laser pickup or any of that. It's just a supplement that replaces the optical drive. So in all these PlayStations, obviously you pop this thing out, you put it in. Now there is one other alternative right now, and that's the SIO. But if anyone knows anything about the SIO, we know that it's really nice, but unfortunately it has a lot of compatibility issues.
Liar,
and not
no,
just
it doesn't. You're a liar because somebody.
Well, we'll get to that in a minute. But the SIO has, and the Cydyne, the creators of the SIO, they advertise a 99.99% compatibility rate. Well, the problem with that is when games like Final Fantasy VII, Resident Evil 2, Resident Evil 3, Mortal Kombat Trilogy, I mean, there is a AAA almost first-party titles that are plagued by issues with compatibility. It's hard to really, I don't understand their metric for how the math or the algorithm they're using to get to their 99.99%. The point is it's not. The X Station is a game changer. The X Station, from my personal tests and what I've done, it's yielding, and for Rama's own word, the creator himself says right now, even in its prototype form, it is literally pretty much 99% compatible with everything. And all the games that are plagued, that plague the SIO, and from a compatibility standpoint, no problem with the X Station. It's an optical drive emulator that is for the people who don't care so much that the installs might be a little more tedious. It's for the people who care about compatibility out of the gate, meaning you turn it on and it just works. And it doesn't mean for it to work with other games, you have to download a firmware update. It'll fix the one game that's broken, while breaking 10 others.
So I want to make
It's
sure
fantastic.
I think I know the answer to all this stuff. But first of all, the two problems I have is the SIO was originally advertised as a plug-and-play optical drive emulator, and then they realized that's impossible, so you still have to physically install something on the board, and depending on your revision of PlayStation, it could be not too bad or kind of tricky, especially for beginners. So I did one that went fine, and I'm clearly not the greatest at this stuff, but I've heard a lot of people say that there's some tricky ones. So it's my opinion that if you have to install something anyway, why not go with the better one? And the second thing that I think I want you to elaborate a little bit more on, please, is the reason the SIO has so many issues is because they're trying to run these games through the serial port and back and try to fake that as if it were a real game, whereas the X Station, once it's getting the data through, the PlayStation just sees that the way it would see a disc, which is why it's, you could get a better compatibility through it. You don't have to fake anything.
So something else that's kind of confusing too, and it was kind of confusing to me initially, was the X Station and the SIO work very differently in terms of how they're implemented. The X Station and the SIO both sort of sit on the optical drive on the CD bus. They both sit on the bus, but they are positioned in two totally different places. Now just give me just a second here so I can think about this, how I can really sort of break this down. Okay, so the SIO sits, you have the DSP, think of two chips. You've got two chips. You've got the DSP and you've got the drive, the CD controller, the Mechacon. The SIO sits on the outside. You've got your DSP, you've got your CD controller, and then on the outside where the parallel port is, you have the SIO. The SIO basically has to implement a lot of logic to replicate what the DSP does and what the drive controller does for it to work. Now, I don't think that the Sidyne guys have decapped the DSP chip or the drive controller because the compatibility is not perfect. So what they are doing is they are interpreting how the DSP works, and they're determining how the drive controller works, and they're trying to interface that and replicate that in the SIO, which is the big box that plugs into the parallel port. That's why it has trouble. It's not perfect. It's interpreted. It's abstract, okay? It's just like emulators. Some emulators that are abstract, they're not, to the gate level. There's not a gate level understanding. So we understand that. The X Station and its brilliance, and the reason it can run on a low-powered MCU or microcontroller, is because the X Station doesn't sit on the outside. It sits in the center. So you've got the DSP chip, and you've got the X Station, and then right next to it, you've got the drive controller. So it sits directly in the middle. What's the difference? The X Station is just responding to data requests, and it's sending data. It doesn't have to pretend to be the DSP, and it doesn't have to pretend to be the drive controller. Really the X Station, and this is the ingenious of Rama. It's not putting him down. When I say this, it might sound kind of funny, but the ingeniousness of it is how stupid of a device it is. Meaning, it's just responding to data requests, and it's doing exactly what the drive is doing without having to interpret code or having to fake itself on the bus. It's just absolutely responding to these two chips without having to pretend to be them. Does that make sense to you guys?
Yeah.
I followed.
Yeah.
So someone asked in the chat, can you speak to why the 50XX PS1 is more compatible?
So it's really... Yes, I can, Daddy, and I'll do it for you. So the problem is that PU7 and PU8s, those are SCPH 1000 series. Those are the audiophile versions, okay? Those versions, as well as the PU18, which is found in the 55,000 series or the 5500 series and some 7000 series. Basically, all PlayStations that won't be compatible, the models are this. Just write this down. 7500, 9000, and the Mini. Very late in life PlayStations, it's not going to be hard to find a PlayStation that works. The most common models, more than likely, is what you have. The reason that the later models aren't compatible is because the chip that we were talking about, the DSP is not exposed on the bus. On the later revisions, they consolidated a lot of their silicon to just a couple of discrete ASICs. So if you don't have the DSP there to exploit, because if you watched my installation tutorial, you'll know that the DSP, the installation for the Well, of course you did. The X Station requires you to just lift some pins off the DSP. And so you don't have access to that. That is not exposed on the bus physically. Therefore, you can't install the X Station on later models because the chip's just not there to interface with. I hope that makes sense.
So I've got two questions for you, Zach. So first of all, I have a 9001 and a 5501. So does that mean I'm screwed? And
No, you're good. You're
Okay.
good.
5501.
5501
is good?
compatible. Yep.
All right, good. Okay, and the second question is there a restriction on the firmware for X Station like there was for PSIO?
Yeah, you need
you
to send
asking-
in your social security number, your blood type, your DNA sample, and you have to kill yourself if you ever want to sell the thing to somebody else. So, yeah.
And you'll receive it in 4 to 6 weeks.
So my understanding to that currently, and keep in mind, I have several prototype units here that I've installed and I've kind of debugged and I'm trying to help with if I can. I don't know the answer to that, but I would assume that they don't share the same philosophies about protecting or the mechanism in which how they protect their firmware. I don't think you will ever run into those obtuse and ignorant problems with the X Station. I'm sorry to say that, but listen,
Okay.
listen. It was to my and listen. Let me allegedly. I don't know if this is true. This is not libel or slander, but it's to my understanding that there are certain people who have purchased the SIO, whether they're early adopters or whether they're just people that have had certain opinions about the device, are unable to update their devices because the company allegedly has forbade them from downloading patches for whatever reason.
Yeah, that's not
That's
hearsay.
screwed up.
One of them's in the chat, and the other one's a really good friend of mine who showed me all the emails. That is proof. That is not hearsay. There are two questions in the
what's-
chat though that I think are interesting. I could answer one of them because I'm
I'm
Only
kind of
smart
lost, by the way.
Yeah,
like on all
that's-
this.
Go ahead,
yeah,
Steve.
yeah. Go ahead, Steve. I'll get back to it.
What context do you need, Steve, please?
Like, so this opinion you just stated, what it's in reference to how you update the older optical drive
So
emulator.
there's two issues. One, that the people that were the original supporters back when they thought it was going to be plug and play, back when they didn't realize it was going to be an installation and they probably just bullheaded on with the same project without realizing they needed to change it. Those people aren't able to get updates. A friend of mine has sent email after email, and he keeps occasionally he'll forward one to me like, "Hey, do you know these people? Can you contact them for me?" And I said, "I don't think they like me either way, so you're better off not dropping my name." But
But isn't there a standard procedure to get these updates?
you would think. Now, the other side of that are a friend of mine got one, and it was not a clone. I want to make sure that's very clear because I wouldn't support clones either, but it was not a clone. And
Absolutely
and they
not.
said that they weren't going to allow them to register it because they needed and I was making jokes about blood type and social security number, but they basically needed proof of where it was bought, when it was bought, how they bought it, the serial number for it, and because they have to register the serial number to each device. And it's just that it was really
So
weird.
they're trying to overcompensate for the clones. Is
Yeah,
that
and
the idea? Okay.
That's why they've locked down this firmware
And for the
update
fact that they
process.
didn't know how to do that thing that you all explained to me at one point a million roundtables ago, how you need the separate security chip that has the bootloader on it. That way you could release the open firmware and it can't be cloned because you have the separate chip on the device. I think we discussed this in the context of I hope they come up with a second revision that has this, and that got swept under the rug because Zach's a liar.
What happened? Well, yeah, I'm a liar. Oh, Evan, so let me add context to that. I don't know if you guys have seen this, but I have a video on YouTube that I released yesterday that outlined the installation of the PS1 Digital, which is the 1080p HDMI true digital internal modification for the PlayStation by Citrus 3000 and Christoph, as well as the X Station. Now, about the X Station, when I got to that segment, I talked very briefly about the SIO and how the X Station is yielding much better compatibility, and it's even in prototype form. What I did was I took an absolute screenshot of Cyberdyne's forum. They have a subsection in their forum for bug fixes and game reports. I took a picture of the forum at that time of all the games that were affected: Resident Evil 2, Resident Evil 3, Mortal Kombat, Need for Speed, Final Fantasy 7. I put that on my video. Well, one of the developers of the SIO got on the forum, and in rebuttal to my video and that screenshot, he called me a liar. He said I was lying about that, and that screenshot wasn't indicative of anything, and he's just calling me a liar. I took offense to that. You don't call me a liar unless you have some damning evidence to suggest that I am a liar. I might be a thespian, but I'm not a liar.
You call him
So the
ugly,
things
just
that's-
don't call him a liar.
Right.
I was
sure.
reading the comments on your video, and it seemed like the SIO supporters were like their claim the reason the SIO was superior was that it preserved the optical drive, which
That's
I
fair.
kind of find as a
Totally.
I don't
fair.
know. I guess, but like Renee's got 2 PlayStations. Renee, did you have to take a second mortgage out to have 2 PlayStations? I assume it's
Goddamn
like
rich Canadians up there with their piles of PlayStations.
He had to stop buying bread for a
Me,
week.
a 20-year-old console. You just get a second one and have the
Well,
optical
I mean,
drive.
I found it at a garage sale for, like maybe $5 Canadian, so that's about a dime US.
That's right.
Yeah.
Welcome to America.
I did want to.
It was actually in box.
I did want to get back to the questions in the
Nice.
chat though, because they were 100% relevant. The first one is: will either of these devices, X-Station, SIO, be faster than original discs? And every
Yes.
optical drive emulator is going to be faster in 2 ways. One, you never have to wait for the disc to start spinning, and 2, you don't have to wait for the laser to move back and forth. But you're always limited at the bus speed, so it'll never be as fast as a cartridge, but faster than discs.
Not the bus speed, Bob, but the stream speed.
Yeah, sorry, thank you. The other question was they want to know if, technically speaking, why does the SIO get so hot? Is it the chip that's in there running too fast? Is there a reason there's people claiming, I don't know anything about this factually, but I hear a lot of people claim there's heat issues. I've never put a temperature sensor on mine, so.
Well, I imagine it gets warm because what is it? Is it a Cyclone 5? What is in the SIO? It's an FPGA. So that's why. FPGAs are inevitably heat generators. I mean, that's just what
But
they
I
do.
will say that it's on the outside
It's
of the
normal.
console.
It's normal,
And I
though.
think people seem to forget that a lot of these chips are rated at very, very high temperatures. So the fact that you grab the plastic and it seems like it's too hot, it might not be too hot. It might be perfectly within the temperature tolerances, or it might not. I don't know. I'd have to look up the data sheet. But just because something's hot, it's on the outside, so you're not heating up the inside of your PlayStation. I don't know if that would actually be an issue. I would have to dig into that.
You know, I
Quit
don't
this
know.
nonsense about reading the data sheet. What the hell?
Yeah, you're right,
Yeah.
Renee. Let's be honest. I would send you
Yeah,
the
who
data
does that?
sheet and say, "Hey, Renee, will you tell me what this means?"
I don't read the data sheet. I wait for the movie to come out.
But I don't understand. I guess back to the SIO and sort of, well, this isn't just limited to the SIO. I think we've all witnessed and recognized this, not just even in the retro gaming community, but just abroad in life, this odd psychology where people feel like, it's like fanboyism between Nintendo and Sega, or Nintendo or like Sony and Xbox. People feel the need, the innate need to defend their purchases and to defend their decisions because it's like the SIO community really came after me after that because they shared this video on their forum and it's like, Voultar was paid by the X-Station people. He has a stake in the company. He has this. It's interesting. I made a video for the SIO. Stone Age Gamer never sends me anything. They don't even talk to me. I paid out of my pocket for the SIO. Bob will tell you that. I paid
You
for
bought
that.
it from
Nobody
me.
gave that to
Luckily,
me.
I didn't
I bought it from
register it,
Bob.
so I didn't have to sell one of my arms in order to transfer it over to him. So that was cool.
So I bought the SIO and I made a video by my own reconnaissance, and that video has over 160,000 views. I've sold more gosh damn SIOs than all of those people complaining on that forum combined, yet I still have a stake in the company. And not only that, it's so weird. It's like I designed 2 different SIO switchboard alternatives that incorporate or integrate a mod chip. Those I released freely for that community. And it's like, I don't understand this psychology, even though I see it and I recognize it. I don't understand the venomous response.
It's everywhere though.
Yeah,
man.
I was
It's
about
like
to say this is
the
universal.
whole PlayStation versus Xbox owner thing. It's
I
It's
know.
not even video games. I'm just saying this is like a human nature type of response.
Yeah,
Oh,
I
yeah,
read a
for
whole
sure.
study about this, and it's related to sunk cost syndrome, where basically if you have something that's $1,000 and something that's $100, and they perform identically, you're going to tell everybody that the $1,000 one's better because you need to feel that since you've already spent that money, it's good. It's why I get get death threats for telling people that scaler that was designed for TV signals shouldn't be used for video games. People lose their freaking minds. And it's kind of, I don't really understand it. We're all human beings. No one's perfect. I've bought crap before and gone, well, I just pissed that money away. My bad. So.
Yeah, speak for yourself.
I noticed this about, when was the analog pre-sale? Was that like a week ago?
Wait, was it the
about a week and a half
pre-order
ago.
for the pre-sale, or was it the announcement for the pre-order for the pre-sale announcement?
The actual pre-order. So I missed out on it, which was fine. Like, I don't care. There was some weird shipping issue, and this is actually not about analog, but I had briefly chatted about this on Twitter just because I mentioned that I wanted to try to get one of their mini FPGA Game Boy things, and I missed out on it. But when I mentioned that, I got the response from the Mister community, and let me preface this by saying I think Mister is cool, and all the work they're doing is awesome. But the Mister community to me has become the new Raspberry Pi community, telling everybody to just get a Mister.
Can I just add something to that? It's not the developers. One of the main devs is a really good friend of mine. It's not the devs that are doing that. It's the fanboys.
No.
Yeah, it's the people that have sunk, like,
That's what we're talking about.
Yeah, this is like every community, and I don't know why it's like that, but Mister is awesome. I still want one of those Game Boys. It looks cool. Mess around with.
Yeah.
I still prefer Mr. Radar.
Yeah.
And Mr. Coffee.
I love
Mr.
that
Coffee.
movie so much.
Yep. So that's all I have. As far as the X Station goes and that whole debacle, I don't know what else to add, but it was unfortunate. I mean, it was to be sort of lambasted by a community just because there's an alternative. There's an alternative.
Oh, Zach, are you complaining about getting publicly shamed for telling the truth about something? I wouldn't know what that feels like every fucking week of my life for the past 3 years.
Yeah, well, okay, Bob. We'll write a book about it. Just quit your bitching, please. Okay?
Yeah, I'm not bitching about flashcards. What the hell?
Yeah, all right.
stop
Perfect
Stop it.
segue right here. Renee, do you own a Mega Everdrive Pro? Because I love mine.
No, I have the original Mega Everdrive.
The one that'll
Like
blow up your town.
Oh, the first one with the Cyclone 2.
Okay.
So the Cyclone 2 does support 5-volt inputs. It's just during configuration that it's not spec'd for that. So there's a brief few 100-millisecond moments at the beginning during configuration where it's not operating in spec. But I have the N8 and I have the Turbo Everdrive and the original Master Everdrive too. So the Master Everdrive is pretty bad. I only used it to test every FM game for my FM power base, and I haven't turned it on since. It's been collecting dust for a few years.
Did you
But
see
I do
the
use
X7
the
Master Everdrive? The later revision of it?
Yeah, and it looks great. It's just I don't feel there are that many games on Master System that are worth playing that I should get another Everdrive.
How dare you,
I
Renee?
hear
I
ya.
love the Master System.
So do you like the Pro, Bob? Do you think it's a better device than the Mega SD?
I mean, to be very blunt here, yeah, of course it is. How stupid would Crix be if he released something that wasn't as good as something that was already out there? So of course it was.
Well, if you can do it for a different price point. Honestly, I don't know what the difference in cost
It's like
is.
$20, but shipping, depending on where you are in the world, is a big deal. If you're in a place you get higher import tax, one is way more expensive than the other. But it's not. It doesn't. I just give Terra Onion time to catch up, and they'll both be the same. So it's one of those things where the Terra Onion fanboys came at me hard after that one, which that's another lovely group of people right there. And it's just the truth is, like, no, it's a follow-up product. It's the next competitor. Of course it's going to be better now. Give it 6 months or a year. They're going to be identical. Just one looks like a Virtua Racing cart. One looks like a Genesis cart. Pick your favorite. So they're both awesome.
So what are the killer features you think that are on the Pro that make it better?
Guys, give me just 2 seconds.
I always get hate when I say this, and I know we just talked about this, but for me personally, the number one difference is that every time there's an update, I go to Crix.com, I click on downloads, and I drop the stupid file on my SD card. Or every time there's an update for the Terra Onion, I have to remember what stupid email address I used to create the account. Hey, because I've bought a bunch of them because I'm friends with a bunch of streamers, so occasionally they'll be like, holy crap, I never got the Mega SD. Could I borrow yours? And I'll just give it to them and buy a new one because I don't need it every day. So then did I register that one? Did I register the other? Let me check the serial number. And it's not nearly as bad as the SIO, but you still have to log in to get firmware updates. So for me, the fact that, I could save a firmware update and 10 years from now, Steve could say, hey, I just picked up one of these things, the website's gone, can I have the firmware? That to me is a big freaking deal. Also, superficially, I like the way a Genesis carts look. Virtua Racing carts look cool. I like the way a Genesis cartridge looks. That makes no difference in performance, of course, but yeah.
Well, okay, so those seem like two issues that Terra Onion's not going to change, very likely.
No, so if that's why you want the Mega Everdrive Pro, then the decision's already made for you. If you need something that's easy firmware update and looks like a Genesis cart, there you go. But
are there gaming features? I mean, I did see that cool video of them. I think you posted it of playing the movie through it.
Yeah, that's pretty awesome. So that's a feature that allows you to. There's a bunch of different features that each have with allowing CD audio on Genesis games, movie players, and Mr. can play them both. The Mr. fanboys like to tell everybody about that every time they get a chance to. I really hope that there's just
get a Mr. Bob. Throw out all of everything you have and just get a Mr.
I hope this will lead to one open source. Here's how we do it on all the different carts, because it doesn't make sense to be fighting over features like that, and it'll take time. That shouldn't be either of these developers' priorities, but hopefully it will come and swing back together, and you could use all the same features on both. The one thing that does matter to a lot of people that just my own preference, I don't care at all, but the menu with the thumbnails on the Mega SD is really nice, and a lot of people really appreciate that when they're selecting their game. The little thumbnail comes up, it reminds them, oh yeah, that's the game I was thinking of, whereas Crix always just has his basic ass list, which as a nerd, I prefer it. Get me to the game as fast as you can, because I don't care what a menu looks like, I just want to play the damn games. So play the fucking game. But yeah, but that's honestly, I don't think Crix is ever going to change that. I don't think he cares to either. So if a really nice menu is for you, then you got to get the other one.
Cool. Yeah,
Absolutely.
I have the SD. I haven't used it in like a year, but
I will say that no matter what you choose, the fact that you could just go through the Sega CD library now is so amazing to me. There are so many games that, like Mickey Mania or whatever the Mickey game is on Sega CD. It's hard. It's real hard. But like when I first saw that, I'm like, I'm not going to burn a CDR for a kid's game. This is probably going to be some stupid thing that I don't like. And then when I went through and I was playing it, Carsey was actually there with me when we were trying out the Mega SD, and we were both blown away. Like, it starts out in black and white and then moves to color as the game proceeds. Like, I've discovered so many really neat games that I'm so glad I got to spend a few minutes with that I would have never known that I even liked without that. Kyo Flying Squadron, one of the creepiest games I've ever seen, but it is kind of fun.
What did I miss? Did Bob take his shirt off?
No,
Not yet.
I'm going to have to get a second beer pretty soon, so who knows what's going to happen after that kicks in.
I was told we were closing with that, but spoiler alert, Renee.
Yeah, if we hit 200 people in chat, I'll do the truffle shuffle.
So somebody asked if Henry Colorado asked if we work on any personal non-retro electronic projects.
I got a fun one, but I got a piece. Renee, tell them how you rebuilt something that got hurt in your flood.
The what? The what now?
Is that an electronic
I don't even
project?
think that was English.
Okay. Well, I mean, I've been working on two electronics projects that I already told you guys they're all under NDA, so I can just kind of quickly go, oh, here's the board, but it's something brand new for a particular retro console that's never been done before. So I'm really excited to be working with a company to do that. I went through all their Twitter posts just to see if they talked about it, but there's no mention at all, so I can't even reiterate what they said, unfortunately. But
do you have a sense of when these things would
So-
come out time wise, like a year from now, or
there probably is not going to be any mention of it from the company for, I would suspect, another 6 to 8 months,
okay.
just based on my timeline and what I know from their portion of the project, because the work is split hardware and software, obviously, right? I'm nearing the end of my part, and them obtaining my hardware is obviously a gate for them to keep moving forward. So I can't see any announcements being made for a very long time with that. There's also I think this one I can talk about. So Retrobit has announced for a while now that they're going to release the Mega Man Wiley Wars on a real cart. I think that was announced in 2019,
Yeah.
right? It's taken a long time because of Capcom, and I mean we've had some really unfortunate communications with Capcom, I guess is the polite way to say
Yeah,
it.
I
But
think you need to skip past that part, Renee.
yeah.
Well, let's not get into that, please.
That's going to take a long time to come out, but there's other re-releases that I'm working on with Retrobit, some really nice shooters from Toaplan, and those are scheduled to be out in November, if I'm not mistaken, and they have talked about that, so that one I can mention.
So Wiley Wars will be not till next year. Good.
Oh my god, I don't know.
What's the retail of that going to be, Renee? Do you know? Is it going to be $100 for a limited edition that sells for 10 years? Do you know?
I have no idea, and I'm not involved in that part at all.
Okay, good. So you won't be the one I'll be damning to life. Okay.
That's right.
Damning.
Yeah.
Good.
But I mean,
Good.
so you have to look at it this way, though. I mean, it's going to be the only officially licensed release of Wiley Wars in North America. So
That's cool.
I think a lot of people are going to jump on it for that reason only.
I definitely
I'll
will.
buy it.
I don't even have room for another
I'm
game,
buying
and I'm
it.
definitely going to
Sure.
buy it.
I mean, to Zach's point, if you let Retrobit know that, if they color the cartridge white and then every 10th one that they send out is glow in the dark, they can charge like $200 for it. And
Yeah,
it'll
and
sell out.
it's amazing. It's like Mega Man 2, their limited edition of. Is it Retrobit that made the
No,
Mega Man
no.
2 limited edition card?
No,
wasn't
it's not
Retrobit.
Retrobit.
Who was Retrobit? I don't know. It wasn't Retrobit, but whoever made the limited edition Mega Man 2 cart that has it was like, I think like a volume of like 7,000 units. It's like $100. Those things have been selling for like a couple of years now. They're still not sold out. Does that not
That's
tell you
because you
something?
could buy
I
the
mean, come on,
original one
guys.
for like $10 at every game store. So
Yeah, $20, $25.
I have
yeah,
very
so-
very limited interaction with Retrobit, but the limited interaction I've had, they genuinely seem to give a shit. Like, not that much talk with them, but they really seem like they're trying to make all their stuff as good as possible, within reason, of course.
I agree with that. I've had
I will speak to that too. It's I'm dealing with them intimately, obviously, and they are striving.
God.
You know what I mean. And
I think I do.
no, but I mean every board iteration that we go through, they send me the samples from China. I examine them. I give them feedback, and I will say, the first few ones I said, this is shit. We got to start over, and we switched factories based on my inputs. So I'm really glad where it's going.
Good, glad to hear it.
Sweet. I think those will sell big time because I mean,
Yeah, I do too. There's an
I know-
actual demand for that,
I
Yeah,
know
yeah.
all, I know
Like you
all
said,
about.
You
Sorry,
can't
go
go to a pawn shop and get a Mega Man Wiley Wars, for $10 like you can for Mega Man 2. So they're gonna
Yeah,
sell it.
pretty much have to go to the conventions where you have the people selling the stand of repros.
I hope they get banned from every expo. I'm not being funny.
They're growing. They're growing, aren't they?
Yeah,
It's
so I wouldn't count on
Yeah.
it.
You hope what gets banned? Oh, the repro sellers?
The repro sellers that go to expos and do shady things, like there was one, not Long Island Retro Gaming Expo, luckily, but there was one seller that was selling for like $1,000 a couple of consoles preloaded and pre-modded with games. And it's like, look, if you choose to steal games, fine, but don't make me steal them. Don't sell something for $1,000 with stolen IP on it. And those same booths very often have like, rare games that they've just flashed onto a different cart, and they say it's a repro, but it's still kind of shady. And I really wish that some companies would get behind this licensing. I wish companies like our buddy who's not to be named would spend time getting the IP of real games and taking games that sell for $500 online and doing official repros. So the same as everything except the date on the back says 2020 rather than the original. And even if you sell them for $100, some people could say that's a cash grab, but I would say that now people that really just want the physical copy don't have to spend $1,000 on something that you could really get for free if you just download the ROM. People that really appreciate all of that extra artwork and the case could buy a real well-built one for a reasonable price.
Yeah, I think the model's been proven out now enough times, right? Like, you've got whole Mega Cat Studios, like all these places have shown that you can take these things and make official versions of them, and people will make it worth your time.
I have a very interesting relationship with the repro community. I think my moral quandary with reproduction cartridges really ends and kind of begins with the people that you may see at trade shows or even online selling cartridges that have no distinguishing or discerning artifacts or marks on the artwork label on the box that distinguish it or differentiate it from the real card. People who are passing off repro cards as legitimate, that's where really the buck stops.
Essentially
for me.
Liars.
Yeah, liars, of course. Oh, yeah, fraudsters. That's where it comes from me. But as some of you know, I designed a lot of technology.
Was it you that designed that? I thought it was that other guy that designed it, and you stole the design from.
That's that guy. We won't talk about him.
Continue.
Yeah. So I designed a couple of things.
Frankie.
Yeah, Frank Stratton. So we designed a couple of things. I designed a couple of things for the Super Famicom and for the Famicom and NES that allow you to, in a non-destructive way, I want to say that again, non-destructive way, convert your Japanese, for example, primarily predicated for the Japanese RPG titles or the Japanese titles that never got localized here.
Yeah.
So games such as Final Fantasy V, all the Dragon Quest games for Super Famicom, I have a little piece of technology I designed that you could install that without removing. You don't have to have a desoldering gun. You don't have to have any of that. You just install it and you go. I have, for the people who want to just translate their own games that they own, that's a totally different sort of avenue than people who are making these games that are based on nothing but just silly profits that they can turn and flip at trade shows. So, for example, like I have a service where I'll even translate. I'll translate your games if you want me to. Like you have a copy of Final Fantasy V, I have a cartridge dumper. I will put your cartridge in. I will dump your ROM, and then I will modify your ROM and in your save file. I'll even preserve your save file, and I'll reissue that back to the cartridge, to the SRAM, and I'll send it back to you. What do you guys think? Do you think there's a difference between people who operate like that and the people who are just
100% different? And in fact, I've seen people use your boards and sell those things on eBay for a premium, but what you're buying is the original game, the original Japanese title that's been flashed with an English translation. You're buying a legitimate thing. You're not buying a repro. It's a modified cart, but it's not a lie, if you will. You're actually getting what you pay for. So yeah, even if people do that and charge a premium, there's zero problem with that at all.
I feel the same way.
How do the translation patches work? They're not like an entire ROM
they're
game,
like,
right?
They're differential data.
Yeah, they're like telling you what bytes are different.
Okay, so it like swaps out pieces of the code.
Right.
It's not like the full compiled game.
Right.
Yeah, okay.
Swaps out the differences.
Yeah.
Yep.
So one thing I wanted to add really quick was I don't think it's wise to assume that everybody who's selling these repros is doing it nefariously. I think a lot of them are ignorant.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I think majority, most of them are ignorant, and they just don't understand that that's like a copyright issue, a problem like that. They just think they made a couple for themselves, their friends liked it, and then they're like, oh, okay, more people like this. This is great. And so they start selling more. So I just wanted to point that out.
Well, I'll name drop them because it's fact, it's irrefutable. But you have places like Retro Circuits, retrocircuits.com. These are repro sellers online who make big business of selling like trilogy cartridges. Like they'll sell a Donkey Kong Country 1 through 3 SNES cart for like a lot of money, or Super Mario RPG coupled with a second game, which is like a Super Mario RPG hack, or Super Mario RPG and Chrono Trigger. Like these single cart compilations, there is no gray line there. That's just wrong. I mean, you shouldn't do that, in my opinion.
But I'm just saying, like, a lot of people, they don't see like just the whole thing with ROMs as like this sort of an issue. They just think, oh, I could download ROMs online. Oh, I made this cool piece of thing that like switches between 3 ROMs, and then my friend likes it. He likes it. Let's start a website selling to other people who like it. I don't know.
I think the
It's like-
easiest way to visualize something like this is if, I put all the music I do up online for free anyway, but if somebody downloads my music for free, even if it was, even if I only had it under a paywall, and they listen to it by themselves, I mean, that sucks, but that's life, right? You're not really hurting anybody, and I would never say anything. I would never name drop or anything. But if you download something that I made, it doesn't matter, music, video, anything, and then you resell that and only keep the profit, you're stealing from me, period. There is no gray area, and it doesn't matter if, oh, I quit the band, so, whatever. It doesn't matter. You're still stealing.
Well, Bob, the good news is there's no chance in hell anyone's going to be paying for your music, so there's no problem
I've
there.
played a lot of big gigs where people seem to have a whole lot of fun. How many gigs have you played, Zach?
I don't know. Maybe you should actually learn how to play guitar a little better, though, before you start playing in front of people.
We definitely need to have a guitar off. We've talked about this for years. Renee's definitely going to win, but I think I'm going to come in second. So there you go.
I doubt that.
Yeah, Renee, you still shredding guitar these days, or?
Of course. Yeah, that's all I have to say.
Yeah. Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. No. I mean, I could be posting videos on Twitter. Actually, I've been practicing a lot, and I'll point out though, there's a big difference, because for many years, especially when I was doing a lot of DB electronics and development work in the lab, I was mostly playing guitar, right, which is completely different than practicing guitar. And lately, I've taken the time to actually practice and improve my skill in the last maybe 6 months or so. So it's a complete game changer for me lately, and I feel that I've been able to improve my skill, which is something that I hadn't done since, I would say, maybe 2012.
See, recording too, for me, whenever I'm recording, so you got to play to a click, even though however you prefer to record on an actual album, when you're trying to get, scratch tracks done, you're trying to get your music down, playing to a click and trying to get a good recording down takes so much more out of me than just practicing or playing, because every note that you miss is now, it's not just a flubbed note like live where no one would ever hear it. Every note is a problem. And somebody in the chat before asked non-retro gaming electronics projects. I don't want to get too far off topic, but Renee built his own amp. And the Kemper Profiler, I'm working with a friend of mine, Music with Marky, shout out, but the guy who did your opening music when you used to make videos. He got a...
that's singular. I made one video.
Well, he got a Kemper Profiler, and we're digging in deep on how to model your amp properly. Because, no disrespect, but Kemper says you drop a mic in front of it and your amp's modeled. It doesn't work that way. It's just like miking an amp in a studio. But once we get the process down, I could work with somebody up in the North Pole to get you a Kemper, and you could actually model your own amp and get it exactly the way it sounds with the tubes that you used, everything else. It's not like a fake plug-in where you could hear the weird, anybody that's really into this kind of recording, you could hear the fake analog warmth to it. It usually sounds like a hiss to me, but it's not like that. You actually model your amp. So then when you go record a song, you drop this plug-in in, or you get a Kemper or something, and you have your amp, your real amp on the recording sounding like you, even if you're just recording direct into the DAW. So
okay, Bob.
No one cares?
That would be amazing. Yeah, so I mean, maybe I can elaborate on that a bit. So I made a 4-channel tube amp. Oh, that was a long time ago. I probably designed that in 2008 or 2009. It's roughly based on a Mesa Boogie Road King, which is a variation
Nice.
of the dual rectifier series.
Mm.
But I mean, I tweaked the circuit a lot to my own liking. The only reason I don't use it is because is my first venture, obviously, into tube amp design, because you can't really afford to, design hundreds of these, and there is a bit of a pop switching between the high gain and low gain channels, and I worked on it for quite a while, but there's a weird cap discharge that goes on when I switch between channels, and I wasn't never able to get rid of the pop, so it's not really usable in a live scenario, but recording would definitely be useful because you just turn the volume down, switch the channels, and keep going like
and
that.
if you're profiling your amp, you don't get the pop because you're changing digitally between the two channels. So there you go.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. But lately I've been using, I bought I got an 11 rack for fairly cheap, which I think is a really respectable unit. I think it has amazing models. I've been using a lot of the JCM 800 model in it and the Boogie Mark II, which I think are probably two of the best amps ever. So
nice. Nick, didn't you try to play guitar once or something?
I have a guitar. I don't really play much anymore. It's been a long time. I used to write music, but yeah, it's just kind of not something I have time for anymore.
I'm definitely getting back into it. I have to, because when you play anything that's complicated, if you don't practice on a regular basis, you completely lose the skill. So hopefully I'll have Renee.
Yeah.
There's one song I really want Renee to do a guest solo in, because I asked him to record one for me, and it was way too technical for the song you show off. But there's a song I'm working on that's actually perfect for your style of playing. So hopefully I'll have that out soon enough, and you definitely got to do the solo.
Excellent. Yeah, and I have been getting acquainted with Reaper. I completely recorded one of my own songs in Reaper. I wouldn't say it's worth sharing with anyone because it is my first venture, and I picked my simplest song too, so that I wouldn't spend ages perfecting the recording part. I wanted to learn the software, not perfect my own song. But I think I'll be able to do some really nice things with it in the future. And to be honest, I prefer doing that than working on electronics.
I like it all equally. There's not enough hours in the day, so.
Yeah, exactly.
So
on another note, I mean, so I think I told Bob, but there's it's just a bit related to music. Is John Petrucci is releasing his
it's out yesterday, I think.
a new solo album. Yeah, Terminal Velocity. And on his Facebook on Friday, he posted, "Hey guys, by the way, I'm selling 400 copies of an LP autographed by me, right? So you got to order it right away. There's only 400 copies, and I managed to snag one, so I'm really excited."
So you're saying what you're actually trying to say is John Petrucci treats his customers better than Analog.
Exactly. Oh yeah. I'm gonna cherish those autographed LPs when they come in. And I got a giant, like a retro LP player, the ones that are the size of a fridge, and you lift the top up and you put the. Anyways.
I don't mean to.
I'm excited.
That's really awesome, by the way. I really want to check out your the amp that you designed. I never got to look at that, Renee. But just as you mentioned Analog, and I just want to. I saw something not too long ago. I think it was an advertisement for the Analog Pocket, and one of the headlines in the advertisement, one of the angles was that, and I think I'm quoting this: "No emulation."
Yeah.
It's like that's really poor marketing. Yeah, I understand what they're doing, but it's totally disingenuous. And I know we had that several years ago, ladies and gentlemen. We had a podcast, and the topic was FPGA. Is it emulation or hardware simulation? And I just think that to project your marketing in such a disingenuous way is really unfortunate. Oh, that's really nice, Renee. Look at that.
Really cool, man.
Wow,
this is
Renee.
the first official DB product, actually. I'm not sure if I'm aligning it properly.
It's perfect.
Oh, that looks great. That looks great.
I've
dude.
played through it. It sounds really badass. I really liked it.
So, okay, yeah, right there. Okay, so I made this wooden enclosure with my dad because my dad was a cabinet maker. So I asked him, he's the one that routed the DB symbol in the woodwork, and then he asked me, what does DB stand for? And I was like,
Tell the truth.
So
You
it's
should have enclosed all of your products in like a nice wooden casing. That looks really badass.
well, I have two closed back 1x12 speaker cabs that I made using the same kind of pine as well. So
That's awesome.
Nice.
That's really awesome. That's really
Honestly,
awesome. That's
honestly,
really awesome.
Zach, I agree with you, but you have to admit, whether you love him or hate him, Chris Tabor is brilliant at marketing. Because even if you decide that it's wrong and you can't stand it, the way he does it has everybody talking, and the way he words these things. Like, I'm wondering if he sends the press release with like a couple $100 bills in it, because every single publication but me seems to just gush over every single thing that he releases. So 100% you have to give him props for the way he does things.
Sure.
I absolutely do. He, like, the way they've cast like the whole, it's like what you said with just the way things are phrased, like high fidelity and the preservation angle. That they've the best marketing I've ever seen in this entire space.
Yep,
for sure.
absolutely.
They've just nailed it. They know how to get people talking. And
it's funny when you ask Kevtris how he feels about that. He basically was just like, "Look, I designed the boards. Leave me the fuck alone."
Yeah, I mean, he's made that very clear that he that's not his element, and I understand. I know Kevin. First of all, Kevin Horton is probably one of the greatest. He is as kind as he is with his ingeniousness.
He's always been really
when
nice
it comes
to
to
me.
this stuff.
I always have nothing but good things to say.
He's the kindest person. I'll always be in Kevin Horton's corner. So nothing to him. But yeah, they're analogs. Advertising and marketing to me is ingeniously. It's disingenuously brilliant. That's the best way I can put it.
Yeah,
that's accurate. I'm sorry, but I mean it's really good, but it's just so full of shit. It's not even funny.
I mean, at the end of the day, I don't know why anyone really cares whether you call it emulation or not. It seems like such a stupid point to me.
It's
Like,
the same point you made before, Nick. It's the same fanboyisms. It's the same everything else. I mean, Tabor found his Wozniak,
loyalists.
right? So all he needs now is a turtleneck sweater, and that's it. He's trying to be Jobs. You think he has a picture of him next to his bed every night before he goes to bed? She says goodnight to Steve, kisses the picture, turns his light off.
Well, I just want to say something real quick. I have a really exciting video that is 100% about analog, and I think everybody is going to be really interested in watching it. It's probably, and I'm not just saying this to blow it up, this is probably going to be the greatest video that I ever make in terms of a review of one of their products.
All I'm going to say is
say
he's
what
not
products?
lying. And it doesn't involve
if you
Kevtris.
like-
It does not involve Kevtris at all.
Oh, if you like Legend of the Douche, and if you've seen that series of mine, which has got, I think, a few million views now, you're going to love this next installment. That's all I'm going to say, but just stay tuned, baby.
Interesting. So we got like a half hour left. So if anybody has any other fun
Jesus.
stories, if anybody has anything else, then we could also take any questions in the chat and everything. This is absolutely awesome and everything I would hope it would be. Thank all of you lovely bastards for doing this. But anything anybody else wants to talk about, anything that everybody's been working on?
Yeah, chat, definitely send questions. We'll have to.
Yeah, let's spend the next 30 minutes just addressing the chat.
I just wanted to say, like, really quickly, because somebody asked the electronics stuff that's not retro gaming related. I've been kind of learning a lot more about spice simulation, and I've been helping. I've been helping on the KiCad forums because KiCad has a built-in spice engine that's open source, ngSpice, and I'm trying to write my own libraries for parts, and now I'm trying to write models at the. So you have like primitives like resistors, caps, diodes, transistors, and then you have subcircuits, which would be like an op-amp that connects a bunch of those together, and then you have like the op-amp model. So now I've done more subcircuit type modeling, and now I'm doing like the diode equation model for like a diode or like a bipolar junction transistor. So I'm like kind of getting into that stuff. I found some nice books from the 90s that all this like stuff that I end up getting into is always like textbooks from the 80s, textbooks from the 90s, comes
See
with
my
a floppy disk. Got to run it in MS-DOS to like, follow along with the book example. So that, and I learned a lot in those books. There's some really awesome books. The guy who wrote a couple of these books did a really good job. And so that's one of the, just to answer that last question, that's what I was doing. I've been doing for a little bit.
I actually
Well,
have
good
a
for you.
small one that I'm kind of proud of. I live in a tiny ass apartment, and I cook a lot more now because I didn't want to go out and have to deal with any of that stuff. And when you cook steak and all that stuff, it gets a little smoky in the kitchen. And I have a return valve in the kitchen, and I'm obviously in an apartment. You're not allowed to modify anything, so I zip tied AC exhaust fans to that. And then I covered it with, actually it was Rourke who sent me a link to certain kind of filters for grease traps. And I posted that up on Twitter, and I was so proud of myself because, yes, it was a Bob mod. It didn't look like a Zach mod. It looked like something I would do, but it worked so brilliantly. And all I got was nothing but hate in Twitter. You dumb moron. Do you know that you're just circulating the smoke back into your apartment? And I'm like, hey guys, I'm not even that smart, but you know that in an apartment, it gets exhausted through a chimney, right? It doesn't go into the neighbors' apartments. There's negative pressure to make this happen. Unless the fan on the roof of the building breaks, that smoke's not going anywhere but out. But oh man, I got shit on so bad for that. And that was a really smart idea. I had people that I respect be like, hey, that's great. I live in an apartment too. I'm going to do that same thing. I also have, the negative exhaust chimney in my house. So I was really proud about that. That was
Stay
cool.
in your lane, Bob. Stay in
Stay
your lane.
in your lane.
I'll never forget that. I'll never forget you.
Let's see. John asked what we think about the piece. He specifically said PC Engine Mini, but also minis in general. I can give my take. I got the NES one. When that first launched, I plugged it in. The audio delay was like unbearable to me. It was so noticeable, and so I sold it immediately. I was like, I'm never going to use this. I picked up a Super Nintendo one. That one seems cool, so I kept that. And then I also got the PlayStation one, which I never even opened. I had it in the box for a year, and then I sold that on eBay. I was like, I'm not going to end up using this thing. So I don't know. I mean, I think it's kind of cool if you need shelf plastic, but it's not something that like
I'll tell you the number one best use for that is I have 3 young children, right, and they like to play retro games, but I keep all my games alphabetically ordered on the shelf, and any child is not able to replace those games alphabetically ordered, and it annoys the piss out of me. So what I did is I set up the 3 mini consoles I have, so the NES, the SNES, and the PlayStation, and the kids are allowed to play retro games on those, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's great for the kids, right? It's got most of the games that they want. They don't have to go pick a cartridge or anything. They just press power on the proper HDMI switch, and it goes right on. So it's great for that.
Yeah.
It's cool for like a portable.
It's like $80 well
too.
spent.
Like I can throw the SNES in like my luggage and bring it out when I'm on like work travel and just game in the hotel. So that's like one simple use for it, but otherwise, like I really don't end up using it that much. The PC Engine, I'm like, if that ever became convenient for me to pick up, I probably would get that just because I never owned one and don't really have a way to play those games.
Well, I can tell you the
for
number
systems that I
one
already
reason
own-
for this, though, the number one best use for all of this stuff is in retro gaming. Anytime anything is nostalgia based, right? So if you're young and you want to experience these games, you have no nostalgia, so go find the right way to play them. But if you're older and you just want to try to have that blast of nostalgia, there are so many people that get into retro gaming, and they're like, even if they don't know it yet, they're like, do I want to just feel like I did when I was a kid for 15 minutes? Or is this something I would really enjoy doing? And those classic consoles are by far the perfect reason for that.
I
Use
agree.
for that. You play your game. If you get that 15 minutes, you play for an hour. You see the box art, those beautiful menus they have. You play the game. You forget to put your TV in game mode, so now there's 900 frames of lag in there. Whatever, it's fun. You smile. You put it back in the box. You leave it on your shelf. A cool little toy. Best possible use. And I also think that many people have used that as their gateway drug, if you will, and they go, I love this, but why does this not feel right? And then they take the time to Google the best website on the planet, RetroRGB.com, and go in and figure out the other ways that you want to play stuff. And I think they're amazing for that. Absolutely.
It's RetroYPBPR.com, actually.
Right.
Just, you misspoke there. But yeah, I mean, when I answer that question, I am totally cognizant of the fact that I am not the target market for those systems.
Yeah.
None of us are.
It's not for us.
Really.
Well, for Renee's
They're
case.
great. They're aesthetically pleasing to your eye, so I like to keep them on the shelf in their boxes. They're beautiful. They're beautiful to look at, and that's why I bought them, just so they can take up real estate on my shelves, because I like looking at that stuff. So that's the only reason I have them, and they're just fun little novelty things, right? To me.
Controllers were cool.
It's
too.
just a novelty
The
purchase.
USB controllers were great, and they work on Mister.
Yep. So I think they're cool. It's just a matter of what you're after.
Yeah, and to Bob's point, I mean, I took my NES Mini, I installed the Tetris ROM on it, and it's 100% unplayable.
Yeah, I can't imagine that would be.
Because there's an audio cue, right? When the piece locks down, that's when you got to trigger your DAS, and those few frames of lag just completely break DAS. You could probably get used to it, but I don't.
So
I play it on a CRT, so I'm not going to.
That's what's going to be in the tournament. The tournament's going to be all CRTs.
Yeah. Brian from Retro USB, when he was designing his wireless AVS controller, he called up some of the best Tetris players on the planet, the ones that are always in the top 5 in all of the tournaments. And he wrote a software program so that he could adjust the latency of the controller. And he found that the best Tetris players in the world stopped being able to do their special moves once you pass 8 milliseconds of lag. Now, that's not everybody. It's probably not even me, and I'm not that good at games, but your average person probably is going to start to notice around 2 frames. If you're mildly good, 1 frame, but you can get your lag affecting you at less than a frame for retro pre-frame buffer consoles. So yeah, I can't imagine that you'd ever be able to play Tetris using software emulation.
I can't even play Tetris through the
OSSC on a TV?
Yeah, the OSSC. See how long I haven't been playing games?
Can't even remember.
I got OSSC on my Samsung through game mode. It has very, very little lag, and Tetris is still unplayable.
How much lag though, Renee? Have you quantified it, or are you just saying that like every other reviewer?
Did you
I
feel the lag,
haven't
Renee?
quantified
Did you play the fucking game? Did you?
It's low because I can play Super Metroid on the OSSC. I can do wall jumps, no problem, whatever. And those aren't as critical as DAS, but Tetris is definitely, like Bob said, Tetris is the game to test if you want perfect input.
I just want to say, I got out the Time Sleuth a couple of weeks ago. There was an update for my C9, my LG 65-inch C9 OLED. 12 milliseconds
That's awesome.
of latency.
Mine still has 35.
Oh,
yeah,
really?
well, mine's from 2016 because I insisted on getting the model with 3D support because I'm one of the few idiots that actually enjoys some of those movies.
Well, that makes sense. But guys, it's like 12. Yeah, it's like 12 milliseconds. I just totally irrelevant. I just want to say, oh my God, I'm really happy.
Yeah.
We also got asked what you guys think of 8-bit dough products.
I think they're great. I think they're affordable, and I think for the price you pay, they work reasonably well.
I just got the
I don't have,
SNES
like,
controller,
idea
and I
of
just haven't had a chance to test it. Yeah, Renee, look at you.
I think they're amazing.
I think they're really good. I have the Genesis controller, and it's really good for that. It's so cheap.
Yeah. So what I did is I set up like an emulation RetroArch machine on a fairly powerful desktop that's plugged into my TV.
Why don't you just get a Raspberry Pi?
It's too laggy. So I got like
Why didn't you just get a Mister?
Yeah, what the hell's the matter with you? Get the hell off our
What's wrong with you,
podcast.
Renee? You
don't
call
you-
yourself an
loser?
engineer?
Oh, damn it.
Jeez.
Why don't you throw out that whole shelf of games and just get
Right.
a Mister?
Yeah,
But
get a SD card, you dummy.
No, what I'm getting at is so I've got the two Genesis ones, the two CES ones. It's perfect for like the 4-player arcade setups.
Hmm.
Oh yeah.
If I want to play like the
Turtles in
Simpsons
Time.
arcade or Turtles with my kids, it's amazing. It's amazing.
The only thing I'll
Smash
mention,
TV.
I love this controller for the Switch. People have had mixed results, but I have had no problems with mine. I guess this analog stick's kind of wearing down a little bit, but for the price, it's incredible. But it's Bluetooth, and I don't think that you should use Bluetooth with Retro. Stick with 2.4 gig and hope that there's not too much interference in your place. But
Well,
for
hold on,
the
Bob.
Switch, that is always my go-to controller. I like it better than the
Yeah, no,
Joy-Cons.
No, Bluetooth. You mean Bluetooth and RF? Bluetooth and RF both work in the same spectrum, 2.4
Right,
gigahertz.
yeah.
But he's talking about the Bluetooth
protocol
encoding
takes longer.
versus like a raw like.
Yes.
Just-
Okay.
yeah.
Okay. I'm sorry. Okay. Gotcha.
Yeah, I didn't want to
Wait,
super
what do you
nerd
got?
out. I know it's the same thing but different. Trust me, every time I talk about this in the comments,
But, I mean,
commenters make
that's
sure
how
that
it's
they know the
marketed.
difference between the two. But yeah, it's
That's how they've chosen to market it on. When they distinguish between their products on Amazon, there's the Bluetooth controller and then there's the 2.4 gigahertz controller.
Right.
it
That's
should
true.
be Bluetooth RF, but I'm following what they say to make it easier to find these things. So
I got you. That makes sense. I'm sorry I interrupted, Bob. Jesus.
okay.
Yeah, they've done a really good job of making controllers that feel like the originals. I really like the Crix one for
Yeah.
Genesis, but
I got that here too.
price-wise, I would say like you may as well just get the 8-bit dough. Cause
I would love the retro USB NES controller. I think it's phenomenal. I just don't like the form
That's
factor.
why you got to get
That's the
Greg's
only
plastic
thing.
shell for it. It's over in the corner, so I'm not going to run and get that one. But yeah, Greg redid the shell. You had to have known about this, Zach, where you could buy it from him, and you just swap the guts. There's no cutting. There's nothing else, and you drop it in, and it's exactly like an original NES controller. And even the clicky buttons feel great in that form factor.
I had no idea, but I want to check it out. Thank
I thought
you.
we talked about this before.
Probably.
Who knows? I don't remember anything from this
Yeah,
godforsaken
Zach just
fucking
every time I
podcast.
speak, Zach shuts off. So that's that's why he doesn't.
And with good cause.
Yeah, that one. And you know what really sold me on the Crix one? Because I would, even if this had a million frames of lag, I still use wireless for all my testing, just makes it easier. But it was actually Beast played the shit out of this thing and said he couldn't detect any lag. And, large man, speedy fingers. That guy could absolutely rip some shit on these games. So when he told me he didn't notice anything, and then it was backed up by the test data too. But I was like, that's how I'm sold. I got to buy one of these.
Cool. Awesome.
Yeah, when they're going straight RF, there's potentially only about 1 to 2 milliseconds of lag in the transmission portion when you're encoding between the two radios. So it can potentially be undetectable by a human
But I mean,
player.
of course, it also
this is
depends
still
on
the
where
best
you live.
Genesis controller, though.
Yes.
By the way, the Ascii Pad.
Oh yes, of
There you
course.
This thing is awesome.
But there is an Ascii Pad SG. You have the Ascii Pad SG6.
That's right.
Well, you know
It's
what's
got
interesting?
The Super Nintendo form factor, which is awesome for
For no Genesis game ever.
Xenocrisis.
Xenocrisis. Well, it's all,
good
and also
call. Good call.
yeah, you get the diamond shape on the buttons, but also like for a game like Street Fighter type, fighting games, I much prefer to have like heavy kicks and heavy punches on the triggers for whatever reason.
Did
very odd.
I know we're getting ready to wrap up here, but did Retrobit release, or are they releasing? Because I remember me and Dr. Leo Marvin hammered them on Twitter. Did they release 2.4 gigahertz RF receivers for their NES and SNES controllers to work with real bare metal systems, or are they going to?
Not yet. I don't know if they're going to. They hinted at it. That's not like insider info. That's public. But they did release Saturn and Genesis for both original consoles and USB. And now through Castlemania, you could actually buy those receivers. So if you want to buy one controller and a bunch of receivers, you could do that. So
Awesome.
So I got the Saturn ones from Retrobit, and I'm really impressed with them. And what's really cool too is, and I'm not trying to sell these or anything, but they come in a really, really nice plastic box.
Wha-bam!
Yeah, they did
I
a
got
really
one,
good
too.
job of packaging.
Yeah, it's amazing. The packaging is amazing. So
I don't know how they do that with the cost of these things. They are so affordable.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you can store them really, really nicely.
And I like the clear shell
And
too.
there's
Did
a-
you get the clear one?
Yeah, I got both of them are
Yeah.
clear.
See, everybody on the round table who could actually play guitar got these.
Yeah, so I got one
Hey,
with
wait
the
a minute.
colored and one with the black buttons. Yeah.
I like the this is cool demake. The one in your right hand.
Hmm.
Yeah.
The colored buttons too. I love that. It's beautiful.
I always prefer the colored buttons. I like the Japanese style of it. Even on my
Yeah.
Super Nintendo, I use a Super Famicom controller because it has all the convex buttons.
Right.
Much prefer that.
Was.
So I got a question for you. How much can you bench now, Renee? Because when we first met, you were a skinny little fuck, and then you showed me a picture that you used to be me-sized fat back in the day, and then now you look jacked. What's up with all that?
So I've been training a lot. I mean, COVID has forced me to train a lot. Well, not forced me. It's just I got a lot more time to do so. I used to use the gym at school, but then they said I couldn't use the gym because I'd have to use the shower, and then they'd have to clean the shower. Apparently they don't understand that soap and viruses don't mix really well, so you don't really have to clean it. Anyways, I'm ranting here. So I've been following a strongman program. Maybe a year ago, I really had a hard time benching more than about 130, and I've been working my way up to 230 now.
Damn.
And I did gain. I mean, last year at this time, I think I was about 150. Now I'm nearing 170 pounds. And I shrunk down from a size 32 to a size 30 pants. So I think I'm heading in the right direction.
So when will you be able to pull a 747?
Renee,
No.
how's, Renee,
I'm
how's
still-
your clean and jerk?
I'm still. I don't know, is that related to the background you had earlier? Or?
Oh, let me change that.
Yeah.
No, we're gonna get booted.
And how tall are you
It's
in
already-
feet
it's
and
already
inches?
happened.
Because we're American and stupid. So how tall are you again?
I'm just 5'9", so I'm never gonna be a strong man. Right? I'm a short
No,
guy.
because you're naming off weights, right? Because I was 5'11" before I blew my back out. I actually shrunk afterwards, which freaked me out. I didn't know that was possible. But when I was 180 pounds, I had friends that didn't know each other, that had never met, that both separately pulled me aside and was like, your giant head is way too big for this creepy little body. You either need to start powerlifting or eat a donut, because 180 is not fucking working for you at all. So you say you're that weight and you look like that, and I'm just like, wow, I wonder do I just need to be like 300 pounds but have a chest out to here or something like that? What's the right look for me?
I find it really weird that someone would say that to a 10-year-old.
Did this person touch you, Bob?
That was the last time Bob was 180
Here,
pounds. for the-
point on
But,
this doll where they touched you.
Yeah, point on the James Roll doll where they touched you, Bob.
I will add though that I'm fairly certain that most of the weight gain I did was probably in my legs. If anything, anyone who's not trained ever is probably extremely weak in their legs. So if you just start, squatting and
Unless
deadlifting
you're
a
fat.
couple
Don't
of times
skip
a week,
leg day, bro.
Unless you're fat.
yeah,
I can do those
the
incline
biggest
presses
muscle
like nobody's
in your body.
business.
It's the one that you got to work the most.
Yeah,
right?
but my legs have had to hold this up.
There's the standard bro workout where people will just want to do curls, but nobody in their right mind does curls. I mean, your bicep can be targeted with other workouts like pull-ups and pendlay rows. What you want to be doing is, the big four exercises, right? The squat, the deadlift, the overhead press, and the bench press. Everything other than that is just nice is targeted exercises that probably aren't that important compared to those big four.
I just want to say real quick, Eric Flinner asks, before the panel is over, could Steve and Nick give an update on their products? Well, good effing luck to you, because there's no update to be had. Oh, go ahead, guys.
Dreamcast 2030.
Yeah.
I had a prototype cable, but they took it
Me
back from me.
too. It's probably the same cable because they could only make one of them.
Yeah, we just made one. We just pass it around.
No. We only gave you half working cables, so with those two, we were able to
Right,
make
gotcha.
one, but we failed, so it's not fully working still.
Well, at this rate, boys, you're going to be selling shit tons, which in Bob speak, that means you're going to sell about 90 in 6 months.
More like 9.
In a year. Okay, that's fair. Do you have any updates? Seriously, I mean, people were asking. Let me just sort of preface his question by saying, I'm emailed all the time. For some reason, I must be PR for HD Retrovision. I don't know, but I'm asked constantly. Do you have any idea when those Dreamcast component cables are coming down the line? And I say, no, I don't. Maybe you guys can sort of air this out into the public for once.
I think I just foreshadowed earlier in the show that we've had some transfer to production issues. So I don't know, at this point.
Okay, so there is no answer.
What is
Sorry,
this
guys.
DFM nonsense?
Yeah.
It's
Okay.
It's a lot of rejection of samples is what it is. Which you talked about earlier, Renee.
Yeah.
So in the future, guys, Eric, those are definitely coming. Someday.
Yes, someday.
Someday.
Working on it. Everything got shifted.
It just seems like 3 years ago we were sitting on my back deck eating ribs and watermelon and cantaloupe and talking about, so Steve, how are those component cables coming along?
Yeah, that was awesome. We were working on that Game Boy Advance screen thing too. That was fun.
That was a lot of fun. Yeah. Hey, but I'll say this real quick though: the component cables for the Dreamcast. Oh boy, it is going to be the solution for analog output for both 480i, 240p, and 480p. Phenomenal. I will buy some. Well, I'll have some, but everybody should get them.
Yeah, there'll be a couple pairs in your kickback box.
I've worked hard for them.
Yeah.
Okay, I mean, what time does this thing end, Bob?
It ends at 2:15. We got some more time. I do want to end right on time because it's a pet peeve of mine when people run late. And the amazing My Life in Gaming is coming up right after this. So I definitely don't want to cut into them. Awesome guys. They have a special guest. I don't know if they've told people who that is yet, but it's somebody you'll enjoy listening to. I'll just say that if you're listening to this, you should definitely move right along to theirs when this is over. So.
It's fine.
It's not.
They never invite me to anything.
Do you really think I have enough opinion of myself to fucking give myself that much of an intro? I'd say something like My Life in Gaming is going to have some drunk on next. Don't even go listen.
Great. I'm glad it's not Bob because I wasn't going to watch.
Well
Easy.
Did you talk about Xbox cables? Because I would like an Xbox component cable designed by Steve. Talked about by Nick.
Yeah, I mean, people have asked us. We've said the plan is to do one. We just need to get over the Dreamcast hump. We cannot be managing multiple projects.
Too many irons in the fire, man.
Yeah, it's just not. But I think it's something we want to do, and Steve and I have talked about some options for it that I think if they came to fruition, people would find unique and cool. So,
are there any consoles left? And I'm not being sarcastic. Like you nailed the Wii cable, you nailed the PlayStation 2 and 3 cable. Xbox is hopefully in your horizon at some point. Dreamcast is never going to happen. Other than that, like what are the cables what are the consoles that could possibly need that?
Honestly, I didn't think we'd be making just cables this long. So. I mean, I hate being pigeonholed into this cable manufacturer thing, but
you could make something else.
It is what it is at this point. It is what it is at this point. Yeah, I think that was the last one I reserved the part number for a long time ago. When
just an outside question here, Steve, and to Nick too. All of these cables that people are still requesting Xbox, you already took care of the Wii, but maybe a few other little niche consoles that probably won't have a lot of volume, but still requests that you get. When do you think, if you can answer this, you're going to set the cutoff to say, guys, we're not producing any new products concerning cables, and we're moving full on right into HDMizer territory. This is where our focus is going to be.
When you say producing, what does that mean?
I don't mean manufacturing. I mean coming up with new designs and developing. Yes.
It'd be up to if we follow through with this Xbox thing.
Okay.
That's fair. We want to, but like I said, that's the last part number I reserved. So that would probably be it.
I just also want to make. Go ahead.
I was
Go,
gonna
I'm
say,
sorry.
without giving anything away, I think you should follow Castlemania Ryan on Twitter. Don't want to say why, but there may be something eventually.
There's
worth
going to be
looking
something
out
good
for.
there, I think. And also, I have a few irons in the fire. I don't want to talk about anything or do an actual reveal, but I have some things that might help people who have HD Retrovision cables, and they might want to use them with other systems too that they can't currently. And that's all I'm going to say. But
I think I actually think I have that here. It's the RetroTink RGB to comp by Mike G.
No, that's not what I was talking about. You. God, you're so.
End the stream. End it there.
Shout out to Mike.
Love Mike G. Mike G's a good guy.
Absolutely.
I support him all the way. Wonderful man.
Well, before we end this, I'd really like to say that people never expected that we'd have both Dave Grohl and Moby on the same stream. So this has been going great thus far. So.
F you, Moby. F you.
Yeah, did you see? I mean, the one time I used Twitter in the last month, I changed my username to Moby, and it actually confused some people.
I didn't see that. I didn't see that. I wish I did. It's funny.
Yeah, because you tagged me on a photo, then I changed my username, so it said that it tagged Moby. Somebody commented, "Oh, it's super hilarious that Voultar actually tagged Moby."
Yeah, I wish I was that enterprising. But that's good. That's pretty fun.
Well, thank all four of you for doing this. I really had an amazing time. Thank you to UPLINK, Long Island Retro Gaming Expo, for having us. Thanks, of course, and especially to everybody that's been watching. I've watched a whole bunch of these panels, and I don't mean to pat ourselves on the butt here, but I think we have the most viewers of all of the panels I've personally watched so far, and that means so much that people actually still give a shit about what we have to say. So I hope I made fun of myself enough. I hope Zach made fun of me enough to make it worth it.
I do what I can, Bob.
Absolutely awesome. So
That's why he's here.
So thank you all so
why they
much.
pay
Of
me the big
course,
bucks.
anytime these wonderful humans and Zach do something cool, I will be reporting on it. So if anybody needs to get kept in the loop, follow the website and all that stuff. And just thank you so much for everything. So glad we didn't get canceled.
Thanks so much, guys. Thanks for keeping us, and thanks for accepting us too. I appreciate it. God bless
See
you.
you guys later.
With all our flaws. Later.